You went to Ghana for a couple weeks, and we were speaking throughout. You mentioned something to me that is like one of the best things that I've heard all year. It was when you said to someone, "I don't want no Hollywood shit. Take me to where it's real."
Yeah.
So explain to us what you meant by that, and how was your trip?
Yeah.
What did you see? What did you come back with?
So I knew, first of all, I knew that I wasn't going for just like a holiday, if that makes sense. I've been saying it from from last year. I've been saying I need to touch Africa, basically, and particularly Ghana, because that's where my dad's from Ghana, and so yeah, when I touched, it was weird because I just booked it, right? So I knew I was going, but I didn't book it until like 3 weeks before. When I booked it, a lot of my family members were like not on it, like, why are you going there by yourself? Da, 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 da. But I'd spoken to my uncle and he was like, listen, when you're ready to come, just come. Do you know what I mean? He's like, I got you, I look after you. And I just took a chance, if I'm honest. So, but the main thing for me was just the intention was to just have a spiritual and build that connection, because I didn't have that growing up. So yeah, when I went and I landed, I just said to my uncle, like, listen, I don't want the Hollywood, like, I want the real experience, like, because I don't want to, I can experience the Hollywood later, do you get what I'm saying, or whenever, but I want to know where my family are from. I want to know the towns that my family have grown up in. I want to understand the relationship between the people in its systems and the UK and the relationship.
You want to know what's really happening?
I want to know what's real, like, because often you go to these places, touristy places and stuff, and they give you this Hollywood, and beneath the surface there's lots of stuff. And I felt it was more important to say that because I felt that there was potentially going to be the Hollywood, like, oh, Jerome's come, let's just take him out to party and make him enjoy Ghana so he comes back. But I'm like, I don't need that. I already know there's under the surface things, and my plan is to invest here anyway. So that mentality is already there without even being here. So I just wanted to understand what the issues were, so we know how to apply investment, whether that's knowledge investment, whether that's structural investment, financial investment, whatever. I wanted to be able to understand the true culture, so I don't experience what everyone else is experiencing. They go out there, they get given a Hollywood, yes, it's fine, come and buy land, da, 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 da. And then boom, your land's gone, or you wasted your money, or you've been snaked, or whatever. But what was beautiful was my uncle was like, he's like me, in that he questions God and the church and all these different things, and studies the same things I'm studying and things like that, because you have to question to come to your understanding. I've come back charged up in many ways, sun charged in terms of solar energy, and nature charged in terms of the nature there, in the ground literally glistens. So if you look at the soil in Ghana, when I was on the way to Cape Coast, like, you can look at the soil and in the sun it's glistening. And my uncle would say, like, every seed you throw, the plant will grow. Like, he said, it's mad, like, anything can grow here. You just need a bit of water, the soil's so rich. So I was learning about that, and then I was also learning about the poverty and the corruption between, the government systems and things like that. And like simple things like the roads weren't done all the way, like where we was going, roads weren't really done. And then just people's relationship to the church. I found my understanding of religion in terms of like what it's done to our people was pretty in depth, but going there and experiencing how religion has taken, well, particularly Christianity, in the way it's been given to the people, disturbed me and has made me question like how, because the way they've given Christianity to people, fucked. Like, that's the only way I can explain it, it's fucked. An example of that is when I went to the slave castle and museum, slave castle and the trading castle that got changed into a slavery place as well. Every place they held the slaves, they built a church on top. And then they give you Jesus or Christianity. And they did that through getting someone who was a slave, child of a slave, turned him into a high priest, and then made him convert people, like go out and spread the word. And I'm like, this is openly being taught here. But yet in the country, all over, you would see the church built up, lovely, beautiful churches, and around, no built up. The roads to the church were mashed up. The communities around the church mash up. Not all of them, but the one thing you would see is the church was developed. And so what it developed, what it's created is a mindset which is all kind of God-fearing and reliant on God. And it's really interesting because we'd have conversations and it'd be like, well, God's not going to make you the money. God's not going to do the steps. God's giving you the tools to. So you're relying on that. Well, wait on God. But you wait on God, stuck in poverty, and you're still giving that money to the church, but the church is not building nothing around you, not building those infrastructures, the schools. So that was sad to see how religion has got our people and not my people's religion. And so Ghana's very interesting because you've got religion, you've got politics, and you have got local tradition. So what you were seeing, there was like a merge, and I think that's why because I questioned about poverty and violence. Like here, where there's poverty, there's violence, but in Ghana, it's not the same. Violence is not the same, but what is that? It's the tradition. So that's what I appreciate. I could see the richness of the traditions. Like, I'm from the Asante tribe, so I was seeing how they keep that alive. Every 40 days, the Asante come together and they have a ceremony every 40 days, and they've never missed it. And that, for me, was very powerful because at least they have something to hold on to. Because when the British, and it's not just the British we got to be looking at, it's the Dutch. They were there before the British. The Portuguese were there. The Dutch and the Portuguese, we never really talk about them when it comes to slavery. They were significant. But the level of evil, man, there's nothing that can prepare you for the understanding of the evil, the viciousness of what this white men did, yeah? Vicious, levels, just levels, nothing, yeah, man. It makes me emotional thinking it, because how can you I've not even experienced in my lifetime any animals being treated in the way they were treated. Even the GMO processed food ain't getting treated like how the slaves were getting treated. And just to give you an example of the viciousness of these people, they would bring at a time 1,000 slaves into these dungeons. Each dungeon, there was 5 dungeons, and you'd have 200 in each dungeon. So number one is they're very hot because because of the heat and whatever, they're hot. Number 2, there's no light. So you've got no lights in there, so you can't see nothing, it's very hot. Then you've got no toilets or nothing, and you've got these slaves or these people, not slaves, people, right? In these places with no food, no light, whatever. They're in there for 3 months. So what happens? Obviously people need to go to the toilet, so there's wee in there, there's poo in there, there's blood from vomit, there's people dying in there, and they were showing us on the wall where this stuff was coming up to where your knee is. So you've got feces, vomit, and you've got to sleep in there and eat from there. So there's a hatch, a square hatch this big, and they'll push the food through there. And it's just enough that you can eat and get your energy, so you are just about alive. And so for me, even as slaves, it didn't make sense, because you would want strong slaves, because they went from having Native American slaves, but the Native Americans couldn't hack the sun. So what they decided is, we're going to get African slaves because they work hard within the sun. So that was the whole premise around it. But then it doesn't even make sense, because you're not keeping them strong to work the land. So half of them died in the dungeons, and then half of them died on the ship. So you got a quarter of the people which again didn't make sense. But being there and seeing, like, standing on the remnants of the, like, when you're standing on the ground, they're like, yeah, this is the dried blood and vomit and da 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 da, and it's like this thick tar, and you can feel the energy, you can hear like weird things. You go into the woman's one, you can smell the smell. It's hard to not go there and feel. You feel it. It's not a logical thinking thing. You get there and you experience walking down that tunnel, and then when the guy's explaining to you, like, yeah, this is what used to happen. I feel every single person, black, white, Asian, da 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 da, needs to go
to get that understanding.
To get the understanding of the level of, see, when we're talking, yeah, see what you say, I feel it differently now. Differently. Like I was getting it before, like, yes, the empathy levels. Because when you're in that, like, they did a thing, right, where there's a project that makes you go into the cells and you sleep over the night. Most of the people don't come out, right, when they stay over the night.
When you say a project,
they did a project where they got these women to go into the cells and just stay the night there to experience what that feels like. Most of them weren't coming out fine. Like,
when was this done?
Recently, because when we went there, there was these like you know, like prison outfits.
Yeah.
They were all on the floor in different places. I was like, what does that mean? Is this where they would sleep? They was like, no, this is for a project. Like, they come and sleep over and they stay the night. And he said, they say most of the people don't even get through the night. It's that mad.
A lot of us need that shit.
Yeah,
though,
bro.
Man.
Me, I was in there I spent an hour in each side. I went to Cape Coast, which was built by the British. It was built by the Portuguese or Dutch, I think it was. But the British came and bought cannons and started bringing, you know, different things to it. And then I went to El Mino Castle, but El Mino was a trading castle. It wasn't a slavery dungeon, but because of the amount of money that was being made from slavery, they turned it into a slavery thing. So it was less dark compared to, but I experienced more energy there. If that makes that, I felt the women's dungeon I went into, and I was so uncomfortable. I was like, this is, I can feel whoever's here, I can feel it. It's crazy. But what it did to me in terms of me and it gave me a different level of like compassion to our people because of what they've done. Like the levels, like I can't even really fathom what they were going through.
There's no words.
It's literally hell, bro. And
There's
then
no words.
What's crazy is you've got the church upstairs. I'm not joking, you could probably look for the floorboard and you see, but what's even more crazy is the church in Cape Coast. The church, as you're walking into the church, there's a hatch, right? You look down at the hatch and you can see the slaves as you're walking into the church. So imagine this, you're going into church, praying to your God, and you're looking down and you're seeing slaves underneath the church. What kind of religion is that? And it's done intentionally. So it's a literal significance of heaven and hell. So these people are in heaven praying to the devil, and then you've got people underneath, because there's no way that there's 200 people, 1,000 people, and you're not hearing the moans, the vomiting, the crying. Must have been mass psychological warfare. Like there must have been a mad thing. Because I know me, and I'm thick-skinned mentally. Mate, crazy. But then what they would do, the way they would make examples out of people would be, if you rebelled, you're going into the cell, right? You go into the cell and you're not coming out. That's the reality of it. They put you in a cell, you die within 48 hours. That's what they say. They just put you in. If 11 of you try to rebel, you're 11 in, you're not coming out till the last one's dead. So you're in there and you're watching people die around you, you're crying, whatever, they go silent, you realise they're dead, like, just mad stuff. And then obviously you think about women and children and what they were doing. But in El Mino, they would release the women if they got raped. They would release them because they weren't like any use anymore. So you don't know the mentality. Like, I want to be raped because I can be freed. And all. When they died, they just chucked them in the sea. So they say that the reason why California gets the hurricanes is because of the spirit of the ancestors. Is like, because it's the Atlantic. So the Atlantic, they say, is like, yeah, we've been chanting. And remember, the guy was saying that they come and they heard like the way African spiritualism was all connected to nature, and they gave them Christianity because they realized like whatever they were playing with, they couldn't play with it too much because it was a lot. So that's why they had to do the spiritual work. But even we were learning about the flights. So flights don't go straight over Atlantic either. It goes round to avoid that, because there's a spiritual. The things I was learning about, talk about mermaids, and like, yeah, people getting like white men getting taken by mermaids because the mermaids come and save certain people under sea, create like all this stuff. When I'm looking at Black Panther and all these things and realizing, okay, so some of this stuff, bro, the history, there's nothing like going to the land and learn and being in that. There's a different type of experience of reading a book to going and experiencing and hearing the people local. So yeah, it gave me a deep appreciation. I learned about Yara Santua, who is a descendant of like where I'm from, and she went to war with the British, 65 years old, on smoke. Said like, they don't tell you, but the Ashantis beat the British 5 times out of 7. So they had 7 wars and they won 5 times.
Actually,
And the last 2 times, the reason why the British won is because they had guns, basically. And the men didn't really fight because they saw it as black magic. They just didn't know, like, there was like, this is some sort of black magic, we don't know how to. But what was really interesting was about how they communicated. They communicated through drums. So you see that Morse code, they were using drums to. It's like, yo, you see the sound thing.
Music.
We can't steer away from the way we talk because that sound is important.
Which is why I said the importance of us being on camera and using time
to speak on it. So
and treating it like it's life or death. Like, how can you not get on camera and be as clear as day and say, look, this is what's happening, because that sound has to ripple through and make you feel uncomfortable. It's like when you go back home and you go to the spots where prisoners of war were kept, obviously it's supposed to make you crumble. It's supposed to. It's supposed to shake you up.
So what I was told was what I did coming back wasn't what many people do. So like, I went and saw my grandparents' grave, and I did a thing called libation, which is basically honouring your ancestors. I never met my grandparents, but I just thought it's important to honour that I'm of them. You know, my father is of you, so I'm of him, and so I'm of you. So I did that, and when I went to the town, they were very appreciative of it, and they were like, "Brony, white man, like for a white man to come and do what you've done." But when they
explain that,
because obviously they're a black man or a brown man or whatever you want to say, melanated, they don't come and do that. Do you know what I mean? But so because I'm disrupting the program, because I look how I look, I'm half white, half black. As soon as they know you're Ghanaian, you're Ghanaian. It doesn't matter white, black, But the intention of a brawny normally comes to exploit. Do you know what I mean? And that's the reality. So,
and
but
that's very interesting.
they also generally give in to that because they know that the white man's coming with money. So the white man will come with money. Do you know what I mean? I'm conscious of it because I'm like, I can exploit here. I can exploit. There's so much opportunity, but I'm not coming for that. So I had to be very like, no, it's not about money. This is about honouring my grandparents and knowing where my dad grew up. So they were not used to someone like me in the town, walking around, chatting with people, learning, asking questions. So they were like, they appreciated it a lot. Because instead of giving them money, I said, no, have you got anything I can buy? So I was buying local honey, I was buying local things. I'm like, no, let's have an exchange. So it's not an exploitative. You're not just seeing me as a saviour with money.
You set the tone.
Yeah, bro,
it's important.
It's important because the eyes, bro, there was nowhere I was going where they're not looking. They're looking like, everyone's looking, they're approaching me. we got stopped by police. Do you get what I'm saying? Because police are thinking, oh, we can get money out of him. Da, 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 da. Do you know what I mean? But where we didn't, no, we're not here for that. You can't exploit us. My uncle's on job. Like, what's your reason for stopping us? They stopped us. When they started to realise I'm not scared and I'm not going to treat you like I'm scared of you, it's respect. I'm here for a purpose. I'm on holiday, see my ancestors. Oh, okay. So it was like the gates were open. But as soon as I did that libation thing, man, the door opens of all sorts of interesting learnings, man. And so I go to my where my parents grew up and meet with the vice chief of the area, and he's having a conversation with my uncle. But you can see they're speaking about me like, what's he doing here? Da, da, da. Oh my God. And then they're saying to me like, you're one of the first grandkids to come and do it this way. Like you've never come, you've come to Kumasi, you've come to Efadasi, and you've met with your village, and you've done libation, and you know, you're going to Cape Coast, you're doing things that people here don't do. They don't go to. So they were, that was very important, very, very important. Even just in terms of like staying with my uncle and not going to hotels and all these things, and I could go to the rich parts of town, which I did. I passed through and saw how that was and realised that's the Hollywood. Don't want that. Do you know what I mean? I like locals, walking around, and just got speaking to different people, man. And what was universal was that they're stuck with this greed mindset. The leaders that run the country and stuff. But there is, on a local level, the innovation is levels. Nothing is broken there. Nothing can't get fixed. The stuff I was learning, as simple as cars, like there was one guy who was fixing cars, but what he would do was show us, he was saying basically, most of the European cars are programmed to self-destruct
Just
after
like
5 years,
people.
like warranty, right?
Yeah.
He says when you change that control panel to a universal kind of thing, your car can last up to 20 years, but it's programmed to self-destruct, so it's programmed for the clutch to start going and da-da-da. He says once you change the program, it's fine.
Like people.
I was like, but then it makes sense because you're seeing them in cars that were like, these are like 20 years old, a lot of these cars. So it's like going back in time a bit. They're still using CDs and things like that. It's like, man, it was nice.
Retro.
It was nice. And what was beautiful was, despite the struggles and despite the wealth not being distributed in the right way, people ain't got time to sit there and fester. I didn't hear them talk about, I've got this and that and depression and this and that and da 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 da. They're just rolling with it and chilled and respectful. Like I saw 3-year-olds come from school, no one's walking them home. So that tells you they're safe. From school up the road, by themselves, come into the house, change their clothes, get themselves ready, back out, go and pick some fruit, sit down, cut their thing, like 3-year-olds. But no one ain't bothering them. Like kids were just free. That was beautiful. Like to see safety. Like they're around the village, it's fine. Like we don't need to oversee them and have this fear-based way of controlling, and it's just freedom. Like that was powerful to watch how these kids and the respect come in. Good evening, sir. Good evening, mum. Good evening. Like what? Like just levels. So yeah, man, and that was what made me realize, like, it's a shame that many of our people are out of touch with that cultural respect and understanding. The Asante tribe, the woman is in charge. The woman, nothing happens unless the woman says it happens. Empowering, bro. The king is he's the outwardly facing leader, like he's the guy you're gonna see. Behind him is the woman. He has to get permission from her to make a move. And they all know it. It's like the king has to go and get, what does the Queen Mother say? Even in the way they become Queen Mother thing, it's like, it's not, you can't become a king and a queen as partners. It's siblings. It's either niece and uncle or uncle and cousin. It's not because of how messy it can get if you quarrel in that way.
Yeah.
There were so many gems, like I'm still processing, but